What is going on, Bucs fans, NCFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we are going to be going over the players to watch for the Buccaneers Week 4 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Both teams are 2-1, coming off of different scenarios, though, right? In Week 3, the Buccaneers coming off, obviously, a pretty crushing loss to a Denver Broncos team that they simply got outplayed, out-schemed, out-coached. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And the Eagles are coming off a pretty thrilling come-from-behind win against the New Orleans Saints, where they didn't really look like they had much life, and then were able to really rally in the fourth quarter. So both teams are 2-1, looking to improve to 3-1 here, and both teams have a lot of injuries. So I do think it'll be interesting to see who plays and who doesn't in this game. I think it could go a long way in determining this game. But with that being said, let's get right into the players that I'm keeping an eye on for this matchup. And right now, we are going to start on the offensive side of the ball with quarterback Baker Mayfield. Now, Mayfield had obviously his worst game last week this season. Played well in the first 2 weeks. He did. But in Denver, or versus Denver, I should say, did not fare well. It looked like he got happy feet a lot of the times. I think he was responsible, I Bleav, for 28% of the sacks or of the pressures given up by the Buccaneers. And he was probably responsible for a couple of the 7 sacks that the Buccaneers surrendered, and Todd Bowles and Mayfield both even admitted that as well. So it's something that they are well aware of. I think it looked like his instinct was just to sort of tuck and run a little bit, and I want that to be more of a feature that he can use, not necessarily the main course, right? He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Jaden Daniels. He doesn't have that escapability. That's not what the Bucs are paying him for anyway. So I think he needs to get back, to what works and using his legs as an extra weapon, not as the main weapon pretty much. The offensive line has to give him time for sure, but I do think Mayfield has to play better, and hopefully he will. Hopefully he's able to bounce back from a poor performance. We've seen this in the past where he's had poor performances and has been able to bounce back from it. So hopefully this time around he can as well. We're also going to be taking a look at Mike Evans. Now, Mike Evans has been pretty much held in check besides the first week of the season where he had 2 touchdowns against Washington. Detroit, he wasn't really much of a factor. This past week, he was even less of a factor. Patrick Surtain and the Broncos really did a nice job of shutting him down. And I just can't see it being 3 weeks in a row where this guy gets shut down. He's too good. He's too much of a focal point of the offense. Todd Bowles said this week that they got to get him going. They got to get him the football. So I do think they're going to. I think Mike Evans is definitely a player to watch. The other one we're going to talk about here is running back Bucky Irving, and that's because, one, he had a good showing against Denver, right? He was probably, you want me honest, probably the Bucs' best offensive player against Denver, probably. He had that really nice 32-yard run, looked pretty good doing it as well. And Todd Bowles said, that he has earned more snaps in this offense. So I'm curious to see, one, what the split is, right? Like, how much does Rachaad White play versus how much Bucky Irving plays? Bucky Irving played, I Bleav, 18 snaps in the loss against Denver. I would expect that number to be up more against Philly, and a Philly rush defense that has been a little suspect to start the season. They did do a nice job against Alvin Kamara last week, limiting him, but the first 2 weeks of the season, they have shown they can be run on. So I am curious to see how the Bucs manage the workload for Bucky Irving and how Bucky Irving does in that newer role, or newish role, I should say, where it's going to be expanded a little bit. He's not going to be the starter. He's not running back 1. But I do Bleav that Todd Bowles isn't lying when he says that he has earned more snaps. I think we'll see that on Sunday. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about Yaya Diaby. Now, we're talking about Yaya Diaby just because he's probably their best edge rusher, and this team needs an edge rush, man. They have to start getting some pressure and get to the quarterback. I know it's easier said than done, especially with a guy like Jalen Hurts, but they got to find a way. 0 sacks in the last 2 games, 2 sacks this entire season, only one of them being from an edge rusher. That's Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. The other one was from Servassier Dennis. So they've struggled, and we knew, I think, or had an idea that they were going to struggle, right, this season, that the pass rush wasn't going to be a strong suit. But maybe there was hope that Diaby takes another step, and Anthony Nelson or Joe Tryon-Shoyinka take another step. Chris Braswell comes onto the scene. But when you take out Vita Vea and you take out Kalijah Cansey, two key pieces in that middle of that defense, it puts more pressure on your edge rushers. And right now, the Buccaneers edge rushers have not been able to generate enough pressure. Bo Nix had all day back there, right? I mean, like I said, 0 sacks allowed against the Broncos offensive line. That was struggling. And they were down their starting right tackle. Really an inexcusable performance by this pass rush. So Yaya Diaby is a guy I'm going to be keeping a close eye on because he's had a slower start to the season. Yeah, his pressure numbers, I think it's like 18%, which is pretty good. His pressure percentage, I think it's like tied for 10th in the NFL. But I am sort of curious to see, can he get to that quarterback? That's what I want to see this week. But especially this week with setting the edge because of a guy, Jalen Hurts, who can run. I think those edge rushers are going to be even more important. So Yaya Diaby, definitely somebody I'm going to be keeping an eye on. The other player I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Jamel Dean and basically the entire Bucs secondary because, look, the Eagles are dealing with some major injuries right now on the offensive side of the football. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are being two of the big ones. And it's not certain that either one of them is going to play. And a matter of fact, I would say they most likely won't now. When this video comes out, there may be new information that suggests they will. Who knows? But I would say I don't think they're going to, honestly. I don't think either one is going to suit up, especially with the Eagles have their bye week 5. So their bye week is literally the next week. I don't know if they're going to really push these guys to play in this game. That puts even more pressure on a Bucs secondary to go out there and you got to dominate. You have to dominate this Philly wide receiver core who doesn't really have great depth as is. They have veterans, Paris Campbell is a guy who'll probably be called up from the practice squad. John Ross is a guy who'll be maybe called up from the practice squad. But, they really don't. I mean, Johnny Wilson, they've had a struggle to find a wide receiver 3. And this is a game where the secondary cannot get burned, man. They can't get burned. So Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Jordan Whitehead. Doesn't sound like Antonio Field Jr. is going to be out there. So Tyke Smith. These guys are going to have to play well. And I do think that this is going to be a big thing in determining who wins this game, basically. So, I mean, yes, the Bucs have to shut down Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert and what else the Eagles have and Jalen Hurts' legs and stuff like that. But you can't let these Eagles wide receivers, if A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith don't play, you can't let these Eagles wide receivers beat you single-handedly. You can't. It would be inexcusable. So, with that being said, let's go right on to our X factor of this game. This is the guy who I think needs to have a good game in order for the Buccaneers to have the best chance to win. That's right guard Cody Mauch. Now, Cody Mauch has struggled this season. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Even though he struggles, last week was his worst week, easily his worst week against the Denver Broncos. Got worked on multiple plays. And I don't mean to kick a man while he's down, but the Bucs need him to be better. It's simple. The Bucs simply need him to be better. They're counting on him to be better, and hopefully he will be. But he's going up against Jalen Carter on the other side of that line, and Jalen Carter has real potential to be one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. He's not finished developing. Obviously, he's not a finished product. One of the things on Jalen Carter actually is he can sometimes disappear, right? And sometimes he looks like a world beater. He looks like unstoppable, and other times he's kind of invisible. But Cody Mauch needs to be on his P's and Q's basically in this game. He needs to play well. And if Jalen Carter is going to just wreck this game and Cody Mauch can't do anything about it, it could be a long afternoon for the Buccaneers offense because when you're getting that pressure up the middle, it's tough to move the ball consistently, man. It's tough to run, obviously. It's tough for your quarterback. The quarterback can't step up into the pocket. So they're going to be taking a lot of unnecessary hits. And hopefully a guy like Cody Mauch can step up because he needs to play much better than he has the past few weeks. But let me know what you guys think. What are your players to watch? I'm always curious to see who you guys are looking out for in this matchup here. A critical matchup for the Bucs. Got to get back to 3-1, I think, heading into 2-1, heading into a short week. Against the Atlanta Falcons will be on Thursday Night Football, but also heading into 2 straight road division matchups. So the first divisional matchups of the Buccaneers season are coming up. I think it would be nice to get some momentum here by getting a W on Sunday afternoon. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.